No Contest is, I feel, a very unpredictable episode of Cheers, and of course, as I tend to say, a really brilliant episode. This is the 18th episode of the first season, and it focuses on a Miss Boston barmaid competition, which I'll talk about in a moment, but I first just want to talk about the opening, which has a guest appearance of Tip O'Neill. Now, I'll be honest, being British, I'd never heard of Tip O'Neill. I did Google him, learned a little bit. Brilliant. Cheers taught me something. But even though I didn't know who he was, it was explained quite clearly in the episode, and I feel like it's absolutely brilliant, particularly the way Cliff sets up Norm. I won't go into too much detail about it, but I absolutely loved what Cliff did to Norm. We're starting to get to see this kind of cheeky banter that often develops, or that begins to develop and often appears between them as the seasons go on. I think Cliff and Norm is one of the most underrated double acts of all time. Cliff also defends the United States Postal Service. I think this is the first time we've had a proper reference to his job. I could be wrong, but certainly if it's been mentioned before, it's never been that prominent. But this is a look at what's to come, because obviously Cliff mentions the USPS quite heavily, but not in a way that's boring. I really find it amusing. But the main narrative focuses on the Miss Boston Barmaid contest, which is being held at Cheers. And Diane has been entered without her knowledge or consent, but while she initially is outraged by this, she decides to actually go through with it because she thinks that it would be a really great platform to actually speak out against that type of competition. And I won't say what happens with it, but I will say it took a direction I wasn't necessarily expecting. I think it was very well developed as part of the narrative, really engaging, and I really enjoyed it. We also have a great exchange between Diane and Carla, where Carla is actually supporting Diane's plan in what she's saying, and that basically never happens. So that was something that was a little bit different and quite nice, and it worked very well. Also, the slap. I won't say who slaps whom, but I mean, you might be able to work it out. But it was just, the timing of it was just perfect, and it was glorious. I really enjoyed it. Definitely a great episode. What's interesting is that while Diane doesn't believe in these competitions, and we do get to hear her opinions on this, the episode doesn't feel like it's lecturing the viewer. It doesn't feel like it's saying, well, this character thinks it's wrong, so we're going to bombard you with all of this information about why it is. It's done in a way that's very funny, but where Diane's message can still be absorbed if you're interested in that kind of thing. So I think it's got the balance very well. Definitely a really interesting episode, particularly as well with Cliff and Norm. Really thoroughly enjoyed No Contest.